how many revivals does it take to get a comeback right? In Bubsy's case, the answer is at least more than one. After the Woolly Strike Back didn't quite hit the mark, there was another attempt less than 2 years later in the form of Bubsy Paws on Fire, and this one was a little different. Unlike every other game in the series, Paws on Fire isn't a traditional platformer, but instead an auto-runner. Lots of major franchises have tried their hands at this over the years. The results are usually pretty mixed, and Bubsy's take on it fares about the same, but it may surprise you to hear that not only is the game decently fun, it may actually be the most enjoyable entry in the franchise as of its release. What? We know what we said. It's all basic auto-runner stuff. Moving at a consistent pace, you grab collectibles and deal with enemies and hazards. Doing so increases your bonus meter, which doles out extra points and some aggressive character effects. There's 3 metal pieces in each stage, and grabbing all of them with each character unlocks an additional bonus level. Each character? Yes! There are 4 playable characters in total, and they actually give the game a decent amount of variety. Bubsy uses his glide and the pounce move from the previous game. Virgil plays similarly, but with an added double jump and duck in place of the pounce, and the other 2 are entirely different gameplay styles. Woolly is an auto-scrolling shoot-'em-up in her UFO, and Arnold's unlockable bonus stages are 3D tunnel segments. Each stage has 150 collectibles, be they yarn balls, little sci-fi planet icons, or gems, and collecting them does matter because you can spend them on alternate costumes for all 4 characters, some of which are pretty fun. You need every type of collectible for these costumes too, which incentivizes exploring each character's stages and going completionist mode to get to Arnold's levels. It may not be super impactful here since you spend most of your time looking at what's ahead of you and not your character, but it's still a nice inclusion that gives the collectibles some purpose. With this whole framework in place, the actual running gameplay is pretty standard, by-the-numbers stuff, but the fundamentals are solid. Controls are responsive, level designs are sensible, and it's all reasonably fun. There are a few minor complaints. For example, Bubsy and Virgil have very different jump arcs and weight to their movements, so switching back and forth between them quickly can be tricky. The UFO shooter segments are pretty twitchy as well, so you may find yourself just holding down the shoot button to tighten up the controls. All that said, the biggest problem is that the levels are just kind of generic and bland. There aren't all that many different hazards to contend with, and the game introduces new mechanics very slowly, so it quickly settles into that functional but unexciting territory that a lot of mediocre titles fall into. There's nothing glaringly wrong here, but there's nothing super impressive either. You die in one hit, naturally, but that never ends your run, so you'll always be placed back at your most recent checkpoint with your bonus meter reset as a penalty. This helps cut down on the frustration of needing to play through an entire stage again, especially a boring one, and it does mean you can kind of just brute force your way through most sections. It's kind of a double-edged sword though, because the same rules apply to boss fights where one-hit kills and back-to-the-beginning restarts are never fun. Even the previous game knew this. Completing a stage gives you a victory medal, of which you'll need a certain amount to progress to the next stage. This means that many stages will ultimately need to be completed up to 3 times over, and it does start to feel like a grind after a while, especially since a lot of that repetition tends to be front-loaded in a world if you're only just reaching the next medal threshold. Since the game counts each of these repeat visits as their own levels, that adds up to something like 100 levels in total across 3 worlds, so there's actually a pretty good amount of content here. But there's a bit of a quantity over quality argument to be made at the same time. Now you might be thinking, hold up, this looks remarkably similar to the Runner series of auto-running rhythm platform games by Choice Provisions, formerly known as Gaijin Games. Well, that's a very specific thought you've got there, but you're right. Paws on Fire was made by Choice Provisions, best known for the Bit.Trip franchise that the Runner series spawned from, and that design methodology is very apparent here. The game tries to leverage Bubsy's unique history to build out its story and world, and it does so to reasonable effect. Lots of characters return from previous games, and it even pulls from the pilot episode of the ill-fated Saturday morning cartoon series. The characters are predictably chatty, but not to an overbearing degree, mostly piping up at the beginning of stages and when you die. The writing is decent, the puns are plentiful, and the voice acting is appropriately energetic. In particular, Bubsy's voice actor from the previous game returns for this one, and he again does a pretty good job. We liked him there, we like him here. The visuals aren't amazing or anything, but the soft and cartoony art style is fitting and feels like some genuine thought went into it, particularly the progression of stage concepts and backgrounds on your march to the big baddie's personal zoo where a bunch of animals are being held captive. Combine those visuals with the polished UI design and you have what may be the most visually cohesive Bubsy game to date next to the original one. Not a high bar to clear necessarily, but progress is progress. Performance-wise, we experienced a weird amount of frame pacing issues that make the game feel more lurchy and stuttery than it probably should. Considering how undemanding the visuals and gameplay seem to be, that's a pretty big strike against a title that's constantly in motion. We know what we've said about its predecessor, but as of its release, it's this that may actually represent the high watermark for playability and enjoyment in this franchise. Ironic, maybe, considering how different it is from the previous games. It's repetitive and a little cookie-cutter, but it's got a good core, and straight up, there's a solid amount of fun on offer. It's really not bad. The game clearly benefits from the development studio's previous experience with the genre, and the level of polish you find in its design and presentation is proof enough of that. Had it not been tethered to the Bubsy IP and its nasty dumpster outback reputation, it likely would have been received more warmly. Still, it's a decent enough time, and while it's pushing things a bit at its original $25 asking price, it's an okay pickup if you can find it on sale. There's worse ways to spend your time anyway. So when you put it all together, Bubsy Paws on Fire gets 3 Gloobies out of 5. It's an inoffensive little auto runner that's just this side of okay, but as far as Bubsy goes, that's as good as gold. Or a golden yarn ball, at least. Bubsy Paws on Fire is available on PS4, PC, and Nintendo Switch. Thanks so much for watching. Stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll catch you back here real soon.